everybody, and welcome back to our spring Lunch and Learn series on executive functioning. And I am the host. I guess I'd call myself a host. I'm the owner of Dynamis Learning. It's a K through 12 tutoring, SAT, ACT prep company, and now executive functioning. We also do advocacy and college essay writing and application assistance. So today, our whole entire series, this is the second of 4. The first one, if you missed it, was on task initiation, and you can go back to last Friday at 12 noon and catch that. It's still on the replay for 30 days. And then today, we're going to be talking about, really, I guess I'd call it, Krystal, emotional dysregulation. Is that what you would call it? Is that
emotional dysregulation, the ability to have emotional regulation, emotional control, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, all of those. So first of all, introduce yourself, Coach Krystal, to the audience.
Well, my name is Krystal Demente. I'm an executive function coach, which means that I work with kids with ADHD and executive dysfunction to help them to get their stuff done. Also, I've been coaching for about 4 years now. And I would say much longer than that. I worked in HR and business management, and I coached employees for like over 15 years. And then before that, I had ADHD growing up. And so I've been there. I also have children with ADHD. So yep, I've been all the way around this thing.
Yeah, you have. You've done a little bit on this rodeo, right? So let's jump right in. Tell the audience, what is emotional dysregulation?
So emotional dysregulation is when we have either too little or too much emotion. So it can actually look like somebody not reacting appropriately to situations that they should be reacting to, maybe acting silly in situations that they shouldn't be acting silly, because there are high emotions all the way around. Their body's not recognizing it properly. Also, the most popular is the meltdowns, the overwhelm, the shutting down because things are too much, overreacting in public, or in school over things that would seem small to somebody else.
Right. Yep. I've seen that a few times, especially with ADHD kids, actually. So how can parents identify these things? What are they looking for to say, oh yeah, that's emotional dysregulation?
Right. And so you're going to see, of course, overreacting over little tiny things. It's kind of what I said a second ago. It's like anything that is overwhelming, that's too much and for that person. And it might look like they sit down to do their homework and then suddenly they're crying on the floor, and it looks like a temper tantrum that is because they don't want to do it. It's actually a temper tantrum because they want to do it and they can't. Right. And so, you'll see it, pretty much in any situation across all life. It actually, you'll see it like a chain reaction with certain kids too. Like one person will start to have an emotional reaction over something, and then another person will start to have that same emotional reaction. So it's like mirroring also. And so, yeah, it is really over all of executive dysfunction, because we have a part of our brain that's called the amygdala, which is our watchtower of our brain. And the prefrontal cortex is in control of all of our executive functions. And when the amygdala is stimulated, it shuts down the prefrontal cortex. So nothing can happen. Nothing will work. It's fight, flight, or freeze. So that happens a lot easier with children that have ADHD.
Interesting. Yep. I've seen it when I'm tutoring. I've seen that, especially if they're not on their medication, and they are medicated. So share 3 strategies. I know this is in our blog. And by the way, folks, you can catch the blogs on Tuesday nights on Dynamis Learning Facebook page. But share 3 strategies to help calm this emotional dysregulation when parents see it.
Very good. So the first one is learning for younger kids, especially, is learning to identify their emotions, because they don't quite understand, because they know that they're overreacting or underreacting. They don't quite know how to label what's happening with them because it's inappropriate, and they know that it's inappropriate. So they could be having an anger reaction to something that they shouldn't be angry about. So what they can do is you can help give them words to identify those. So say, instead of you're just upset, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. You could even look at, am I hungry? Am I tired? Things like that, to try to help them identify what's going on. And so there are different types of tools, that we provide as coaches for younger kids that have visual charts that they can point to and say, this is what what's happening with me. And then there's a corresponding one that says, this is what I should do in this moment. So say that I'm very angry right now. I'm going to sit down in my quiet space and I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm going to do some box breathing, something like that. So they can choose. You can help them figure out what their best method is to calm down. And that's very important. And so also for the younger kids, because this is the bigger deal for the younger kids, as we all know, because just generally younger kids have issues with emotional regulation already. There are some books out there that work really well for this. I think I recommended one in one of our podcasts, but like it was Roaring Riley is my favorite one to recommend, because it talks about a child whose blocks got knocked down, and then the teacher shows in the book these different methods that he could use to relax, to calm down, to clench his fists and then let go, or shake his hands. It's that visual memory that we need to try to show for these kids, because just telling them what to do they don't quite understand. So they need more of a well-rounded understanding of what these things are. So that's a really big one. For older kids, it starts with understanding. So it starts also with them paying attention to when they start to get upset, because usually there are some bodily sensations and things, like their hands will start to sweat, or their stomach starts to hurt, things like that happen before the meltdown happens. They are just too busy to recognize that within their body, and they're not aware of their body. So doing something like a mindfulness technique, like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A lot of us have heard of that one, where we talk about 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And you just list those things, and then you stand back and think about your body and the sensations that you have in that moment. And it kind of brings it all in and clears that slate. It turns that amygdala off so that the brain will start working again. And you can actually identify, you'll see once they start making logical sense again, that means the brain is back on. Because when they're having that emotional meltdown, nothing is going to make sense. And you're going to try to talk to them. You're going to say, no, do this, do that, or why are you feeling this way? They have no idea, because they're literally, the logic is just shut down. And so they're going to do everything they can to try to be like, stop, I don't know, and so just helping them to take that step back and relax. And so we have lots of little techniques and things that work for different kids. I like those fast ones that they can do, where they're nobody can see what they're doing. They could actually do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in a classroom, and nobody would see what they're doing. There's other acronyms like the STOP technique. There's box breathing, things like that they can do just in the moment to get that brain to switch back on.
Interesting. Yeah. So parents, that's all good to know. There's quite a number of techniques there. We're not saying try them all or anything like that, but you may want to try one and see if that works. And then if not, I always sit in a coaching class and they're like, okay, you don't have to try all these things you just heard.
Right.
Try one in each category, or just try one.
I let kids pick. I show them kind of a couple of them, and I say, which one do you think you would do? And they usually are very quick to pick 1 or 2. It's interesting. There's something about one or the other that just makes them feel better. Right. And it's all the same kind of things that you'll hear, as an adult and a therapist, really, telling you how to help your emotions or how to calm down from some sort of event. But we just have to remember always that to have patience when these things happen with kids with executive dysfunction and ADHD, because they know that it's inappropriate and they don't know what to do about it. And so when they get yelled at or something for having the meltdown during the meltdown, it's just going to make it worse. And so that's why you see we get a lot of frustration in that moment. It's actually kind of the opposite. If it, I think in more traditional disciplinary methods, when a kid is melting down, they say, you're overreacting, go to your room, or you're overreacting, don't do that. That's bad. You're in trouble. Don't do this in public and this and that. But what we need to do is be able to say, for a younger kid, you have to get down on their level. There's been some times with my daughter's very headstrong, by the way. So it's part discipline, like it's part like her and then part the ADHD also, but I have to get down on her level and actually kind of hold her. So there'll be people walking by, in Target or whatever, and they're just looking at me like, but she's melting down because she's seen 42 different Barbie dolls that she wants. And mom said that she could have this one thing that was on an aisle way over, and then suddenly, because of the way she is, she wants to negotiate, bless her. She's going to do great in life. She really is. But for me, I'm just like, oh my God.
She's going to be an attorney.
she will. She's very quick-witted and she's quick to come up with different ways to negotiate. I'm actually super proud of her. But there's been a lot of times where I've had to sit down and actually just hold her, remove her from that space where she's seeing the overwhelm, and wanting all of the things, and then sitting down with her and having patience and just waiting it out, which is so hard to do because people are looking at you, and that never feels good. When you're just like, people are probably like, oh, get that kid out of here. But the reality of it is she doesn't realize what's happening in that moment. She's completely shut down. Right. And so, there've been quite a few times it's been like that. It gets better as they get older, for sure. But here's another one. I got to bring this one up real quick.
Okay, sure.
Video games. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Video games.
None of these kids are doing video games.
Yeah. No, none of them. The video games and the screens and everything are so stimulating. They do exactly what they're supposed to do for these kids. Okay. Yeah. They are the most stimulating thing possible. And so you have those in front of them. And if they go too long, it's like it uses up all of that dopamine in their brain. And once you take it away, suddenly there's no stimulation and no dopamine. Everything is understimulating, and you get a lot of a lot of outbursts and a lot of inappropriate behavior right after that. So you'll hear me say it repeatedly if you're listening. The timelines for screens, especially for kids like this, needs to be low. So like 2 hours, 1 hour a day, if you can get it that far. They have to have it though, because it's part of their lives. It's part of their culture, so you need to be able to let them explore in that area. But what it does is if you're doing that as they're developing, it's going to create understimulation through the rest of their lives. And they can see, you'll see depression and anxiety come out of that, because they're, addictive tendencies, because they're trying to find stimulation that works as well as what they were, grew up with, what they got used to as they were growing. So.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good point there about the screen time, folks. You really need to limit it, and at least limit it if they're going to have to do more, then at least break it up. If you're going to do more than 2 hours at a time. Yeah. But there is, I think it was the Attorney General, the Surgeon General had said there was a warning that he just put out not too long ago about the amount of screen time for young kids. So you might want to, everybody may want to take a look at that. I'm sure you can Google it and find out what the warning was. But I want to thank you, Krystal, for coming on and sharing your experience with everyone. And folks, if you want to reach out for a complimentary discovery call on executive functioning, you can email me at info@dynamislearningacademy.com. and then we will do that for you. Also, I am doing a bonus drawing. If you comment below whether it's live or on the replay or ask us questions, we will come back and check those and answer them as well. Then you are put into a drawing for March 14th. We have a series of 4 of these. So the next one is on March, I think that's the 7th, next Friday already. And wow. I believe we're going to be talking about maybe task management. One of them is organization and one will be task management. So we're going all the way to March 14th. And so you can always catch these on a replay. They're here scrolling until I think Facebook now has a limit of 30 days. So make sure you catch it. If you would like to join us on a newsletter, you will get these also in links. So you can join us in my newsletter by emailing me at info@dynamislearningacademy.com. So thank you again, Krystal, for your time and coming on here. And folks, oh, you're welcome. And we'll see you again next Friday at 12 noon, and it'll be March. Hey!
All right.
February's gone. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.